Hey, welcome back to the Missouri Sports Network, MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us to take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. Well, an interview that I have been looking forward to like a giddy schoolgirl for a week now has finally arrived. And Buffalo Bills sideline reporter Sal Capaccio, kind enough to join us here. And Sal, thanks so much. We were introduced about a year ago on here in Southwest Missouri, and we've been able to kind of keep in contact. But thanks so much for being part of the show today.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you very much for having me.
And I've just reading up, getting prepared for this interview, just looking at your history, and we talked a little bit off air about it. But you know, you're the host of Extra Point on WGR 550 there in Buffalo, the number one ranked show I believe in the area there, and 150,000 followers and probably going up. But kind of tell us how you got into this. A very interesting story.
Yeah, I actually, I was the guy. I'm doing what I've always dreamed of doing since I was a kid, but it wasn't the straight path, right? I mean, I grew up wanting to be in sports broadcasting. When I realized I wasn't going to be an NFL wide receiver or center field for the New York Yankees, then I gravitated towards, doing that. And I was a good athlete, but I wasn't quite the level to be able to succeed at the professional level. So I said, hey, you know what? I still want to make my career in sports. I went to Syracuse University, where you find a lot of the famous broadcasters like Marv Albert and Don Criqui and even Dick Clark and Ted Koppel and Mike Tirico and all those guys and Sean McDonough. They all went to Syracuse, right? So that's where you go. So I went there and I got a first job in Florida. I was at a small radio station in Florida. We were literally doing play by play of little league baseball games at this radio station. It was actually cool. All the grandmas and grandpas would sponsor it and things like that. And but I was I was living in like a retirement community and I was kind of bored. So I started coaching on the side. I was young, I had no kids, and I really still loved, being involved. So I was coaching little league baseball and Pop Warner football. And the local high school coach came to me and said, hey, you do a good job with these kids. Do you want to join my high school staff? So I said, sure. And after one spring football, I loved it so much. I decided, maybe this is what I want to do. Radio, I'm kind of hitting a ceiling in radio. I'm still young. When you're young, you think you're going to be on ESPN like that, right? You think it's going to happen overnight. And so I left the business and went to the University of South Florida, got certified to teach. I became a social studies teacher, high school for 10 years, taught American history, government, taught kids with disabilities. I had a rewarding experience. I was a football coach for 10 years. I was a head girls track coach for 6 years, but I always had that burning desire and fire burning to get back into radio. And I always wanted to do it in my hometown of Buffalo, New York, where I grew up pretending I was the announcers here and recording myself and air checking myself, calling games while watching TV and Bills games and Sabres games. I would call the local radio station WGR and I'd record myself on the phone call talking to the host, and I'd go back and see how I did. I mean, that was me. And an opening occurred in around the year 2007. I applied for it. Podcasting had just started a little bit. I was doing some of that. They liked me, but said, we can't hire you full time. If you ever want to move here, you could start over in radio. And I'm like, in my mid 30s. But guess what? I did. At the age of 37, dropped everything and had met my wife when I was going back to school. And we both basically decided to leave our cushy jobs, I guess you'd say, in Florida, where I was playing golf twice a week and teaching and coaching a couple sports, and started over in radio at the bottom at the age of 37 in Buffalo, New York. I always joke that I'm the only man in America who chose to leave Florida to go to Buffalo, New York. And on top of that, I did it to start over in radio part time for not much money. And I substitute taught on the side for about a year or so. And then we got the Bills contract and the rights, and they put me on some things, and things started snowballing from there. And now here I am 10 years later, the greatest decision I ever made. We have an 8-year-old son. We have a house in the city we bought, have a great life. I'm on an NFL sideline with an NFL team every Sunday as their flagship station beat reporter, sideline reporter. I'm a talk show host, and I do a lot of work for TV here. I'm on the CBS affiliate here in Buffalo for a lot of stuff, Spectrum News, things like that. So I'm literally living the life I wanted to when I was, 8, 9 years old.
What's it like being on the sideline of an NFL game? My dad had coached at the collegiate level, pretty high in the collegiate level, and I've been on those sidelines at the collegiate level, but not on the professional level. What's it like being there?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just have to remind yourself how big, strong, and fast these guys are, and the punishment their bodies truly are putting themselves through, and you get reminded pretty quickly when you see those collisions happen in front of you and how fast they're going. They truly are such elite athletes at that level, and everything just goes so much faster than when you're watching it on TV. And you blink and you say a play occurred. It's amazing. But for me, I just, as a former athlete, as a former coach, I need the adrenaline too. I love the competition. I love being down there. I used to, when I wasn't the sideline reporter and I first started at WGR, I would go down on the field before the game and just kind of walk around a little bit just to get that atmosphere going. And now I'm there throughout the game. And my job requires me to watch certain things for injuries and stuff like that. But I'm into the game and I'm watching what's going on and what it's like. It's surreal. You know what I do? Honestly, I every single game. I've been on the sideline for 8 years now. Every single game during the national anthem, I stand there and I look around and I say, "This is the NFL. Like I'm in the NFL. This is amazing to be a part of this." And I try to smell the roses a bit.
You bet. You bet. It's got to be an outstanding experience. And, just reading through your bio and then just the work that you put in to get to there, that has to make it even more rewarding.
Yeah,
That, you look back and think, what was I thinking? And now here I am. This is what I've dreamt of. And, very inspirational story as you read it. And, you and I have similar backgrounds. I was not, uh, good enough at some point really to play at the next level, but really enjoyed covering it and then went to high school coaching, special ed director, things of that nature. And then in 2007, I said, hey, and I just bought the show myself and said, hey, I want to do a scoreboard show and bought it myself, did that for about 15 years. And, that worked into a morning show,
yeah,
and I've running the board and things of that nature. And now it's all podcasting, and
that's
it's a
right.
lot. Yeah, it's a lot easier than telling coaches, "Hey, can you meet me at a Pizza Hut at 11 o'clock?"
Yeah.
Well, no, I can do it then. I can do it in that. This whole COVID thing. This may be the only positive thing that came out of it was the ability to be talking to you in Buffalo, New York, at a time that's convenient for you. So it's been
And
rewarding for sure.
yeah, and I'm doing my show even from home, right? I mean, sometimes I go to the station, sometimes I'm down at the stadium. If there's practice, we have the ability to be mobile. Like I'm sure people have seen. Like I have I'll just show you real quick. For example, like we have a Comrex machine right here, right? I literally just take this on
Yeah.
the road with me. I can do it anywhere. I could press a button and go live from wherever I am on my radio station, and that's always been the case. But now it's like, oh yeah, we can actually do this, and people understand. And we're not trying to fake anything out. We say, yeah, I'm at home. Like, what are you gonna do, right? And it's kind of created this world that's made it a lot easier for all of us to kind of do our jobs in that space, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Now to the task at hand, you've got making the trip here into
Yep.
Kansas City. Just kind of your thoughts going into this game, and visit a little bit about the 38-20 whooping that the Bills put on the Chiefs earlier this season. But what are your thoughts right now? 3 days out.
My thoughts are this is it has potential to be maybe even the game of the year, considering who these two teams have been the last couple of years. A rematch of last year's AFC Championship game, of course, around earlier. The two coaches, how well they're respected, and what they've accomplished with their respective teams so far. Albeit Sean McDermott's, hasn't reached the level of Andy Reid, but mostly the two quarterbacks, right? I mean, come on, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, who they are and what they've done in this league so far. The way that the Bills have played, the way they played last week, which some are calling it the perfect game. I mean, I don't know about that, but it was pretty close to it, scoring on 7 straight possessions, scoring TDs. And then the way the Chiefs have been playing and rolling through the second half of the year and playing defense and the addition of Melvin Ingram. I just think that everything's coming together for these two teams that I don't really know what to expect. I find it hard to believe that one's going to blow the other out, but I've seen those situations where it's just not your day. Things start to go wrong and you try to play catch up and you try to press a little bit. So that could happen. But my thought is that this is going to be a fantastic football game and it's going to come down to late in the fourth quarter and they're probably going to trade blows. And no matter what happens early, you have to remember that it's a 4 quarter game.
As you go back to that metric game on 10-10, October 10th, it's a 38-20. The Chiefs turn the ball over 4 times. Emmanuel Sanders catches 2 touchdown passes in that game for the Bills. And in the next 12 regular season games, he catches 23 passes, but no TDs. Now he gets one against the Patriots, but I think everybody scored, in that game.
Yeah.
But what are some of the differences between that week 5 game with Buffalo? Where are they at now here going into week 19?
Well, there's two main differences with the Bills between then and now, and they're really both kind of similar. One is their ability to run the ball. They could not really run the ball other than Josh Allen. And Josh had a great night running that night, if you remember, in Kansas City. But now they have a lead back in Devin Singletary, who's really playing well. And that's a lot of the offensive line has finally gotten into place. They've had some shuffling going on there because of COVID, because of injuries. They're playing well, but the Bills can run the ball now with people other than Josh Allen. And it was kind of a mixture of Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, Matt Breida. Now it's Devin Singletary's backfield. Sure, does he come out once in a while? Yeah, but he's not trying to look for the home run ball because he's getting limited opportunities. He's taking the 3 yards, the 4 yards, and keeping the offense on schedule. That's number one. And the other one is the ability to stop the run. Teams were able to run the ball on the Bills quite effectively at times earlier this year. The Indianapolis Colts, the only game the Bills just weren't in competitively, they blew them out because they could run the football. The Patriots come here on a 60-mile-an-hour wind night and Monday Night Football, and they throw the ball 3 times and they still win the game because they just kept running and running and running. But the Bills have been a much better team against the run. So I think in those 2 areas, the Bills have really emerged. And then on your point on Emmanuel Sanders, that's right. But the Bills are very deep at wide receiver, and Gabriel Davis at that point of the season wasn't really playing much. He had been dealing with an ankle injury. Neither was Isaiah McKenzie, who was more of a return man. Well, now they get everybody involved. Emmanuel Sanders actually missed a couple of games because of an injury. Gabriel Davis is their big play guy. And Isaiah McKenzie is, I'm not going to call him Tyreek Hill, but he does a lot of the same things that the Chiefs asked Tyreek Hill to do. That's what Isaiah McKenzie's doing for the Bills offense.
Yeah, you look at the Chiefs, and since that week, and of course they were 2-3 after that game.
Yep.
After the Bills game, they were 2-3. The Bills were 4-1. Chiefs went 9-3, I think, to finish out the season. Bills 7-5. But the Chiefs have kind of turned the page a little bit, where they're, Mahomes has taken some of that underneath stuff. I mean, they turned the
Yep.
ball over 4 times. Mahomes threw 2 interceptions. They fumbled the ball twice in that game. I think that's going to be a difference there. And I look for a great game, and I'm not really a Chiefs fan, so to speak. I grew up St. Louis. My grandfather built Busch Stadium, the '66 Busch. Cardinals were still there. I grew up going to Busch Stadium. So I was a Cardinal fan. Didn't care about the Chiefs. And now I'm a Mahomes fan. I'm definitely an Andy Reid fan. I think he gets overlooked a lot of time as far as his coaching ability. But what are 1 or 2 players maybe on the defensive side of the ball that maybe the Bills are going to have to account for with regards to the Chiefs?
Well, first of all, this is the first game the Bills have played against this type of an opponent without Tre'Davious White, their all-pro corner. Tre'Davious White was hurt Thanksgiving night in New Orleans. The Bills have done an excellent job without him, but they have not faced anything like Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Mecole Hardman and those guys. So I think that that's going to be a real interesting matchup in key. And I would expect Mahomes to test Levi Wallace and Dane Jackson. But again, the Bills have done a great job even without Tre'Davious White. They're the number 1 pass defense in the league, the number 1 overall defense, the number 1 scoring defense, and they have 2 all-pro safeties in the middle of the field, which really help out, and they can help those guys, or those guys do well enough on their own. So that's really one. I'm really interested how they defend Travis Kelce. Matt Milano is a fantastic linebacker. The Bills are very athletic at linebacker, and I think that's one of the things that has helped them and really helped them. Now, Milano didn't even play in that game against the Chiefs. AJ Klein was there, and people were very concerned. He's not the athlete that Milano is, but I think that's something that the Bills are going to have to make sure that they do really well. Is their linebackers have to flow, and their DBs have to take good angles to make sure they tackle. Because I'm looking at the numbers today, and it's interesting. You think about the Chiefs as this really high octane, quick strike offense, and you're right. They've been taking the check down a lot more. Patrick Mahomes, if you take his yards to the target, air yards, if you will, from the line of scrimmage to the target, he's like bottom 3rd in the NFL, but he's number 1 or 2 in yards after catch from his receivers. So he is giving them a chance to make plays. And in order to combat that, you got to come up and you got to tackle and you got to be in the right spot.
Yeah, and that's a testament, really. Tyreek Hill and some of the guys he's getting involved out of the
Yep.
backfield now, and of course Kelce. He had the big play there at the end of the first half in that game last week. But as you look at this game coming in, it's going to be 55. I think is the over under. I mean, you going over that? You going under that? I mean, that's a big number.
I expect a little bit. I expect under, unless one team really gets off and goes for 35, 40 points, which is possible, right? I think this could be more of a game where each team wants to kind of slow down the other team's offense, right? Keep everything underneath. That's what teams did to the Bills earlier this year, and that's what the Bills did to the Chiefs, and other teams have done to the Chiefs. And if each team is kind of playing that game, let's limit the other team's possessions. Then I don't know. I think it might be a challenge to get to that. But certainly they both have the ability with the weapons and quarterbacks they have.
Yeah, and the quarterbacks, it's been much made about the fact that this is the new, you know, rivalry as far as quarterbacks. You got to go back to maybe Manning, Brady. They've
Yeah,
been compared to that a little bit. Now they've got somebody's going to have to get to the Super Bowl a lot more often to get to that level, I think. Although if the Chiefs get there this year, that's 3 years in a row
yeah,
that they've gotten there. Buffalo, and I think this is Josh Allen's kind of coming out party because right now they're the two best quarterbacks in the NFL. Notwithstanding TB12, but
Rodgers is pretty good right now too. So
yeah, that's true. Aaron Rodgers,
yeah,
and the amazing thing, I looked this up last night, about Tom Brady. Outside of his coach, the other three coaches left in the NFC are all younger than him.
it's amazing. It's
That is
amazing.
unbelievable.
It is pretty
And
incredible.
and I think all three of those coaches were together on the same staff at Washington.
Yeah, you
Uh,
think you're right. You know what's funny about the AFC is you think about Andy Reid. Well, Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier are both off his tree. They both coach with him in Philadelphia, and that's the Bills head coach and the Bills defensive coordinator. And I think you get a lot of that intersection, of course, with a lot of these coaches that wind up going far, and that's why they're successful and their assistants are successful. And Vrabel, of course, used to play for Bill Belichick. So yeah, it's quite interesting here how all this is shaking out. And I go back to what you talked about with the two quarterbacks here. These are the standards right now. And you probably remember as well, when I was growing up, it was Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas and Andre Reed in them, and they had to face the Chiefs a couple times. They faced Joe Montana and Steve DeBerg when the Chiefs got to a level where they just couldn't crack that ceiling against the Bills. And now the Bills haven't been able to crack that ceiling against the Chiefs. Now, granted, they've only played once in the playoffs, but that's their benchmark. So you go all the way back to the AFL days. These two teams have quite a history against each other, and it's cool. It's cool to see these old school AFL teams in this position.
you bet. You mentioned that 1993 season, the '94 game at Buffalo. I was at that game. I
There you go.
drove all the way. I was in college. Drove all the way out to that game. And I sat way, 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 way up in the top. Of course, Montana gets hurt in that game
Yeah.
early with Bruce Smith, I believe, hit him.
Yep.
And then that game, and then they had the drop touchdown pass that really kind of sealed the deal. But got to listen to all the way back, or not all the way back, but driving back to listen to the 49ers and the Cowboys
That's right.
play because they had the afternoon game that day. But great memories there. If you could pick out if Buffalo wins this game, you could pick an MVP outside other than Josh Allen. Who do you think that's going to have to be?
Ooh, I'm struggling with maybe I'm struggling with a couple of guys here, but I think the most likely guy would be Stefan Diggs. You know, that is his number one guy, and he's been sensational this year once again. He doesn't have quite the wow eye popping stats of last year, but the guy still caught 1,400 yards in passes, and he scored a lot of touchdowns. And he's the number one guy. Josh is going to go to him a lot, and the Chiefs are going to have a plan for him. I think Dawson Knox could have a game, and maybe one of those other receivers if they try to double Stephon Diggs. But even when J.C. Jackson was on him, a really great corner, I would say if there's an MVP of this game other than Josh Allen, I think that Stefon Diggs would be a very likely candidate.
You bet. On the Chiefs side, outside of Patrick Mahomes, it's probably going to be maybe a Travis Kelce or a Tyreek Hill. I think would be. I don't
Most
think you're
likely,
going to
yeah.
get a defensive guy that's going to step up unless Allen throws a couple of interceptions.
No, but I will say this, last year Chris Jones was a big problem for the
Yeah.
Bills. And now he's back inside after the addition of Melvin Ingram. They move him back inside. Of course, that's his natural position. He can be a game wrecker. There's no doubt about that. And if there is somebody on the defensive side for the Chiefs, it's probably him who would be able to do that. Now, we'll see. Obviously, the Bills, like I said, they're running the ball a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, a game like this, you're expecting with these two quarterbacks and these weapons, I would say Bills have actually done a really nice job on tight ends overall this year. I think though it scares me getting the ball in the hands of Tyreek Hill and letting him do what he does. That would probably be a guy that I would look to and say, look, against Levi Wallace and Dane Jackson, again, they've done a great job, but are they going to be able to cover all these receivers and up to this challenge? And that would be the concern there.
So, sideline report. You actually get to fly out with the team.
So it's interesting. For 6 years, I was on the team charter every single trip with the team, but because of COVID, we couldn't travel last year at all. We did all the radio crew, just like everybody. We did all the away games from the home radio booth with monitors in front of us. And then during the home games, no fans, but I was allowed to be there, and I was in the moat above the wall there. This year, we are traveling, but because of NFL COVID protocols, we cannot be on the team charter. So we are actually flying out commercial. Now, in a normal season, I would be, and hopefully we're back next year. But so we're flying out charter. Now, some teams are still allowing their radio crews on it. The way it works, in case you don't know or your listeners don't know, is um, every team gets all of the players and coaches, and then only 75 more people total on their charter. So each team has to kind of decide who those people are. And sometimes the radio crew is not going to make the cut, right? It's just the way it's going to be. And that falls into tier 1, tier 2 employees. We're not employees of the team, where some broadcasters are. I'm an employee of Odyssey, WGR Sports Radio 550. So it's all a little bit mixed in how they want to do it. So, but to answer your question, not traveling with the team this year, but I still do stay at the team hotel. We just can't travel on the plane with the team.
All right, very good. Well, Sal, like I said, I've been looking forward to this for, 2 weeks since I thought about it, and we got to visit a little bit last year on ES. I was with ESPN at that time here in Springfield, and I thought, I'm going to reach out again, and we've got a rebuttal coming up here. We got Matt Derrick with Chiefs coming up, but it's if you could pick a score, what are you feeling like right now?
It's so tough. Everybody's asking me for predictions all week. I'll say this. All right. It's no disrespect to the Chiefs, of course. It's hard for me to pick against that Bills team I saw play Saturday night, though. I mean, the way they played Saturday night, I understand the Chiefs played phenomenal on Sunday. Took them a little while to get going, but from the get-go, the way Josh Allen played, the way the Bills played, the fact their season ended there last year, the viral picture of Stephon Diggs standing on the field emotional, watching the celebration. It's hard for me to pick against them, but I think this game can go either way. I think it's a 27-24 game either way. Of course, I'll take the Bills right now, but I wouldn't be surprised to see either team win this game.
Outstanding. Well, I really appreciate you being generous with your time, and that was, 25 minutes that flew by, and and maybe, hey, Bills win. Maybe we'll catch up again next week and go into the AFC Championship and talk a little bit about that. And like I said, I really don't have a dog in the hunt. I'm fans of both teams. I love what Josh Allen has done. I mean, that's just incredible. And outside of they're got to be one of the top 4 quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, he's very good. He's special. Just like Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City is going to be doing a lot of great things for a long time. We know Josh will be here in Buffalo, and it's fun when you have a quarterback like that. We went for over 20 years without having that after Jim Kelly left, searching high and low and under every rock and every draft pick you could, and finally you have one here in Buffalo, and it's good.
Well, the Chiefs got to go back to Lenny Dawson.
There you go. There you go.
Very good. Sal, thanks so much for your time.
All right. Thank you for having me.
You bet. You're listening to the Missouri Sports Network at MissouriSportsNetwork.com. Keep it right here.